Gentlemen, please remove your headdress and your hats as a sign of respect. Let us now bow our heads, stand still, reflect, and honor our veterans in this meditation of gratitude and peace as we take 2 minutes of silence, beginning now.
Please, headdress.
Okay, thank you very much. Now we're going to move on to the history of some of the monuments and laying of the wreaths. First, we will talk about the Peacekeepers Monument, United Nations Peacekeepers, a monument honoring Cape Bretoners' service in the United Nations peacekeeping. There are more than 350 former peacekeepers in Cape Breton. A peacekeeper's motto is "Our hope for mankind." This monument is dedicated to the men and women who served in Canada's name on united peacekeeping missions in the past, present, and future. This monument's design encapsulated the whole peacekeeping movement with the 3 headgears: the blue beret, the blue helmet, and the blue ball cap, worn by peacekeepers with an olive branch to signify the United Nations. The monument also includes the names of 4 Cape Bretoners killed while on peacekeeping duty: Corporal Elmer G. Groom, Trooper Joseph H. Campbell, Private John A. LaRue, and Captain Aloysius Roach, CD. This monument, United Nations Peacekeeper, honoring their sacrifice in the service of peace, was unveiled right here on August 9th, 2016, National Peacekeepers Day in Canada. Would you do the honor of putting that wreath up, Vince, since you are retired peacekeeper? Thank you, Vince. Okay. Our next monument commemorates the 50th anniversary Victory in Europe Day. Canadians have been at war since 1939, retooling our factories, mobilizing our men and women, and sending our troops and resources overseas. Before the United States entered the fight, Canada stood beside Britain and the oppressed peoples of Western Europe, intent on defeating Nazi Germany and the Axis powers. 1 million Canadians were in uniform. 42,000 had died, and tens of thousands more were wounded or languished as prisoners of war in camps. The country was eager for victory and ready for peace. When news reached home that Germany had surrendered, Canadians breathed a deep sigh of relief. Victory in Europe was announced the morning of May 7, 1945, on civilian radio in Halifax, and residents were given the rest of the day off. In Canada, people filled streets and town squares. From Sydney, Nova Scotia to Surrey, BC, offices and schools emptied and some factories shut down for the day as Canadians gathered in vast crowds to laugh, dance, attend outdoor band concerts, cheer the men and women in uniform, and watch ticker tape fall from the sky. This monument was a joint partnership with the Royal Canadian Legion of Cape Breton and the Cape Breton Post newspaper, working together to celebrate the 50th anniversary of Allied victory in Europe, also made possible by the generosity of all Cape Bretoners who donated to the Victory in Europe Day Trust Fund. This monument was dedicated on November 9th of 1995. We are now 78 years since the end of World War II, and we will never forget those who sacrificed their lives for our freedoms. We thank them and we honor them, and we will always remember them, lest we forget. Donnie? Thank you, Donnie. Next is the Korean War Monument, 1950 to 1953 Canadian Commonwealth, dedicated by the Keeley Branch. Excuse me. That dry patch again. Sorry. Dedicated by the Keeley Branch Korean Veterans Association, Cape Breton. Sorry, guys. The Korean War erupted on June 25th of 1950 when North Korea invaded South Korea. The first Canadian military response was made by the Royal Canadian Navy less than 2 weeks after the outbreak of hostilities. The Korean War took place in the Far East from 1950 to 1953, and more than 26,000 Canadians served in the cause of peace and freedom in this struggle. Thank you, Vince. Okay. Some of the heaviest fighting our soldiers experienced in the war took place during the Battle of Tapyong in April 1951. This invasion touched off more than 3 years of fighting in the place traditionally known as the Land of the Morning Calm. Canadians would serve at sea, in the air, and on the ground during the Korean War. There were among 516 Canadians who died in service during the Korean War. This monument is in memory of the fallen comrades from CBRM. We remember and honor these 12 brave soldiers. Private Michael P. Chesson, New Waterford. Private James J. Christoph, Glace Bay. Private William Dawson, Reserve Mines. Private Michael A. Dunphy, North Sydney. Corporal Earl McCaskill, Sydney. Private Stephen H. McPhee, Port Morion. Private William E. Morrison, Glace Bay. Private Charles J. Morrison, Glace Bay. Private Edward J. Power, North Sydney. Private Angus W. McGuinness, Glace Bay. Private Everett C. Buchanan, North Sydney. And Lieutenant Joseph Y. Levinson, Sydney. We honor and thank these men for their sacrifice for our freedoms on July 27, 1953, and armistice finally ended the active fighting. The Keeley branch of the Korean War Veterans Association, which has been since disbanded a couple years prior, performed their last duty by donating the remaining funds of their bank account to 2 local charities in New Waterford in October 2014.
Are you doing it?
Ashley? For the Atlantic Convoys plaque from Sydney, Cape Breton in the Second World War. The Sydney Convoys ran from August of 1940 until May of 1945, where hundreds of merchant marine vessels were organized into convoys that departed from the ports of Halifax and Sydney. The Royal Canadian Navy accompanied duties for the remainder of the route. The SC convoys were a series of North Atlantic convoys that ran during the Battle of the Atlantic during World War II. The letters ST stand for slow convoy. So, to give you an idea on what they took with them, some of the ships carried lumber, pulpwood, wood pulp, steel and scrap metal, corn and grain, nitrates, phosphates, newsprints, ballast, phosphates, mail, iron ore, steel, and coal. 10 of these slow convoy merchant ships were sunk. Approximately 70 merchant ships were sunk or lost that sailed out of Sydney, Cape Breton. It is unknown how many lives were lost. We will always remember their sacrifice, for without them, the war efforts would not have been able to continue. Their plaque reads, "The lasting memory of the courage and endurance of all Canadians who sailed from Sydney with the Atlantic convoys and the sacrifice of those who did not return." This memorial was unveiled by Sir Nicholas Bain, British High Commission, in 1995. Thank you, Atlantic Convoy heroes. We will never forget your sacrifices. And I will lay this wreath.
I just got gave him one.
Okay, that concludes our ceremony. So we were going to have, instead of reading a closing prayer, we're going to go back in history to 1973 with Sister Janet Mead, our Lord's Prayer. I hope it'll be loud enough. poppies at the foot of any one of those.